Alright guys, so we've covered some pretty impressive products from Noble Audio on this channel. We've tested the Rex 5 and the Amadeus True Wireless earbuds, and we've also checked out their wireless Apollo over-the-ear headphones. And so far, I've been very impressed, but we haven't checked out their IEMs yet, which technically is what has put this company on the map. But most of them come in at a pretty hefty price tag, which normally doesn't fit this channel. But today we're going to be checking out the Noble Audio Night C. Now this is their latest IEM, and they technically consider this an entry-level IEM, but entry level and coming in at $289 usually don't go hand in hand. But if you look at some of their other IEMs on their page, you'll see that they go all the way up to about $4,000. And before this pair, the most affordable or entry level IEM that they had came in at $600. So with the Night, what they're trying to do is make their brand a little more accessible and make it a little more affordable, not price everybody out. So maybe the $289 price tag isn't that bad. So we're going to talk about all of the things that these have to offer and maybe where they had to cut corners and see if it's worth the almost $300 price tag. Now, the Night has an aluminum body, and it actually has this really cool, like, holographic acrylic faceplate. I really do like the color scheme of these overall, having this dark feel to it. Even the cable itself, which is a silver-plated braided cable, even that's black. Now, it does use the 2-pin connection, which is really common, but what isn't necessarily common is that it is using a 4.4 millimeter balance plug-in. So you will need an adapter if you need like a 3.5 millimeter plug-in, which is standard, or maybe even a 1/4 inch, which most amps and home stereo systems used. Now the Night does use a triple driver setup, which includes a 10 millimeter dual magnetic dynamic driver with a composite diaphragm. This is what's handling the bass. It is using a Sunyon balanced armature driver to handle the mids, and then it is also using a piezo super tweeter, and this is what's taking care of the treble. Now these are really easy to drive because they only come in with an impedance level of 26 ohms. Even on the packaging, it does say that it's sensitive enough to work with most smartphones. It's just that most smartphones don't have headphone jacks anymore, let alone a 4.4 millimeter balance plug-in. So again, you are going to need adapters to get these to work with some other devices. Now inside the box, outside of the cable, I did notice when I opened the package and saw this little shield, I got pretty excited. I thought this was the case that the IEMs were going to sit in, but it's not. It's actually what's holding all of the ear tips in the case, which is actually quite a bit. It comes with 5 sets of silicone ear tips, or the normal style. It also comes with 2 sets of the double flange silicone ear tips, and then it also includes 3 sets of foam ear tips. So no matter what your taste is when it comes to ear tips, you are going to have plenty to choose from. But what wasn't that impressive was the case that they did include is just this little fabric drawstring pouch. So not really a whole lot of protection as far as for the IEMs themselves, and maybe I just kind of got excited thinking that the shield was going to be the case. So the fact that it's just this little drawstring pouch was a little underwhelming. So how do the Nights actually sound? Well, they're actually quite impressive. Now, I did expect these to have a big drop off from the sound quality compared to some of the more expensive IEMs that Noble Audio has. I've tested some of these at different audio shows. And again, this is where I've said that sometimes it's better not to judge something because you know the price ahead of time. I think you go in with this preconceived notion that because it's cheaper, it's just not going to be anywhere near as good as the more expensive ones. So this is just one of those that I had to completely clear any expectations, and I guess that's why they surprised me as much as they did. Now the Nights do have a fairly vibrant tuning to them. They let the bass be a little bit more loose, not extremely loose like a subwoofer or anything like that. They do still have plenty of control to them, but the bass is pretty punchy. It's not sloppy. It's not anything that's affecting the mids or the treble. In fact, the mids I feel like are slightly bumped forward, just enough enough not to be too aggressive, but enough that you can hear male and female vocalists in front of all of the other things going on. And the treble, I feel like, is where these are pushed up the most. Now, it's nothing crazy. It's nothing that's like sibilant sound when it comes to S's. It's not overly harsh. It's going to give you like ear fatigue or anything like that. It just has this nice sparkle to it at times. And I feel like it just works really good across all genres. In fact, I love the overall tuning of these. They're just not necessarily aimed for bass heads. So they're going to lack when it comes to the low end for some, but it does still have a fairly dynamic tuning overall. And what's also surprising is the soundstage and the sound imaging still sound pretty wide. I mean, it sounds like you are in a very large room, and it actually does a really good job of separating sounds and being able to tell where everything is coming from, and it gives everything some pretty nice depth to it. So it doesn't come across as like an entry level IEM. So my overall opinion on these is really, they are great. I just don't feel that most consumers are going to consider these entry level, because there's some really good options out there for under $100, and there's actually some really good options under $50. But if anybody is wanting to try a Noble Audio product and they don't want to shell out, thousands of dollars on an IEM, which is what they're known for, I don't feel like these disappoint at all. And it really just kind of comes down to what it is you're looking for and what you consider to be affordable. I mean, we've checked out the Kren Daybreak that just came out, which I think, again, is about $200. That's a hell of an IEM that has multiple drivers handling different things that I think is a really good competitor for these. And again, you can go and look for days and check out IEMs, the sub $100 market, the sub 50, and find things that may be somewhat comparable, but these are tuned very precisely. They do have a really good overall sound, and I think fans of Noble Audio, or people again wanting to check out Noble Audio products, this is a very good gateway into that company. But guys, that wraps up my video on the Noble Audio Night, or Night C, because that's what's on the packaging. But thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.